Hey there, you've wandered onto the VUC, a weekly conference produced by IP Communications and VoIP Community. We would like to thank Simwood.com. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is from OnSIP.com. You can get a URL that people can click to call you at onsip.com/getonsip. Speaking of SIP, we use the best PSTN and SIP conference bridge in the world, zipdx.com. Our website at vuc.me is on bluehost.com. And thanks to Voxbone for our world local rate dial-ins. This is Random Noise this week, and I'm all excited. You know why? Yes, I'm jumping up and down near the Eiffel Tower because in just a few weeks, we've got Camellia World, Berlin, Germany, May 8th through 10th. And I'm not going to go through everybody's name again, but most of us will be there, and it's going to be great. It's great fun. And there are 1,000 reasons why you, those of you who are listening to this, if you got this far, would want to come to it. One of the big reasons is if you're anywhere in Europe, it's just so much easier to get to than all of the major biggies in the States, but it's something to think about, okay? Now, without further ado, I'm going to switch over to James Bodie, who's going to give us a report now on, I don't know what.
On what?
I don't know what. Anything.
I was just about to work out what I was going to say, so go to Tim. Tim has had his hair cut.
Yes, let's talk about Tim's hair. Then we'll talk about Kathleen's hair.
What's happened to Tim's hair? Oh my giddy aunt.
I've had my hair cut. Right. So there's a I can't believe we're talking about this, but anyway.
Yeah, you look like an Eastern European refugee.
Well, yeah, I was in Berlin, so I suppose I might count. And in fact, that's like, maybe that's the theme of the week. What does Brexit do to Eastern Europe or something? I don't know. Anyway, you know, I was in Berlin. It was lovely, beautiful weather, lots of exciting people, lots of interesting things going on. So it was
tell me, Tim, what were you doing there? Were you looking at apartments by any chance?
Well, I had a very crazily busy week in which I had a morning looking at apartments, but that was only part of it. I did 2 interesting little integration projects for Pipe, which I can't talk about, and various events, and no, a lot of fun actually, a lot of interesting stuff going on. And Berlin is being Berlin in a good way. Good food, nice people, interesting stuff going on. Not too many people took the piss out of me about Article 50 and leaving the EU. Although the real estate agent was very relieved when I said I didn't want finance from a German bank, because he said they wouldn't give you any anyway. But actually, seriously, that's an interesting change. Basically, they won't. German banks, because of the uncertainty over Brexit, won't give English citizens a mortgage because they don't know what legal position they'll be in the future.
That's boring.
Well, it's kind of interesting, I thought, but maybe our positions are slightly different, James. Maybe what interests you about buying property in Germany isn't quite the same as me. But anyway.
So how much does a half-decent apartment in the former East Berlin cost these days?
Less than one anywhere in London by a long shot.
Well, I would imagine so. But not basically because there's more of it, I suppose, more housing stock.
Yeah, there's more housing stock, and it's not full yet. I mean, the thing about Berlin is that it spent, you know, the second half of last century emptying, and everyone basically left it slowly. And
well, in the days when I was there, they used to allow people who were conscripted to dodge conscription, but their alternative was to go and live in Berlin.
Right.
So this is why you got this really cosmopolitan, hippie type population in Berlin.
Well, and it's still true that you can afford to, particularly for commercial property, there's still reasonably central. There's random bits of commercial property which you can turn into an art studio or a bar or a commune or whatever, without actually it costing you anything like what it would cost you anything kind of
Okay.
within 50
Well,
miles of
here's a
London.
leading question. Will you have an apartment
No,
by Camellia World?
no.
Why
No,
not?
well, because the process is, I can't believe it. Anyway, yes. So the process actually takes a little bit longer than that, basically.
Oh.
The German law means that there has to be even if I really put my foot down, I couldn't get through the process in between now and Camellia World. And I'm not in a hurry, so.
Okay. Are you likely to be back in Berlin in the middle of April?
You mean a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah. Well, how about April the 21st?
I don't know.
You're going to say why?
I am. Why?
Well, it's because there is a really interesting conference going down. It's the first ever OsmoCon. OsmoCon. It's taking place in central Berlin for one day only. And for those who don't know, OsmoCom is a suite of software which does open source cellular infrastructure projects such as Osmo BTS, Osmo BSC, Osmo SGSN, GGSN, and others. And it's what is being used in the Facebook sponsored TIP, Telecoms Infrastructure Project. So Osmocom is running the back end for the local kind of localized EPCs in there. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're going places and they're running their first OsmoCon, and I really want to go to it. So I was kind of looking for a couch to surf on, but if you're not,
I'm afraid I can't, certainly not in that time scale. That's not going to, I mean, so the law is there's a 14-day cooling off period at minimum. So like, even if everything else happened tomorrow, it would still be 14 days, which would just about be in time, but it's not going to happen. So anyway.
So it could be an Airbnb.
I think, James, you're going to need an Airbnb. So Osmocom are interesting, and thanks for the heads up on that. I might try and get over there for that. I have a couple of things.
Yeah, I'll drop a link into the IRC.
And it's interesting that that Facebook have picked them as the front end, middle end, whatever it is. It's slightly disappointingly unradical, in the sense that they're basically they follow. I don't want to say slavishly, but I probably think I.
Well, they're German, aren't they?
No, they follow the 3GPP specs. Like, so that there was always, I mean, always used to be this dichotomy between the way that the OpenBTS guys worked, which was basically to do the absolute minimum of 3GPP standardization to get the bits out of the air, and then from then on you do IETF stuff from there on up, and you get rid of the 3GPP layers as soon as possible. You know, get free of them as soon as possible.
And you end up with the
James, let me finish. So the contrast is that
Osmocom
actually implement the whole 3GPP stack, admittedly cutting some corners where it makes sense, but basically the whole stack. And that, I think that's an interesting contrast. And I've always obviously been rather in favor of the former category, but it looks like Osmocom have won this round anyway. So James, go on now. Feel free.
We had the benefit of working with the Osmocom guys, Harold and who were the others anyway, on the Ubuntu stand at Mobile World Congress.
Right.
And I never really got up close and personal with Osmocom before, but I was hugely impressed. And there are others who've been using it with their hardware, like dear old Alexander from Fairwaves. Remember Fairwaves?
Yeah. With the motorbike engine disguised as the people who were told to switch off their BTS because it was interfering.
Yeah. Well, look, all people who've brought their own GSM infrastructure, please turn off yourselves now. You're interfering with the PA system. You remember that?
I do. Actually, I wasn't there. I just heard about it. But yes, exactly.
It was very funny.
It's well, nowhere else in the world.
And it was the Russians who were doing the interfering because
and they did have this
the
thing.
open BTS thing wasn't even powered up.
They did have this thing with which did look like a small motorbike engine.
Well, a moped engine
everywhere.
Yeah,
I'm never quite sure whether those were strictly necessary or not.
it was a very impressive bit of metal, which looked remarkably like Michael's new fanless PC computer thing.
Yes, actually, there's
a good
similarities.
segue if there ever was one. And
there you go.
It is.
With the little spinning top sitting to.
Why have you got two umbrellas?
That's one of those thermal rotating things.
Yeah, that's
kind of unfans.
It's a little marketing thing that they do to sort of illustrate the fact that it's convection cooled.
So you have to have, like, you wouldn't, having my messy desk would completely upset it. It needs a clear air underneath it. And I see you're feeding it with cold air from the stone floor.
Well, first of all, I live in Texas. There's not a lot of cold air. But what I can do, and in fact, in reference to our state politicians, there's a lot of hot air. So I'll take that off. So you can see it's got like sandwich construction metal channels. It's quite warm, and it's dissipating 74 watts according to the front panel display. And now if we open it up, you see basically it's the GPU and the CPU, custom motherboard, and the card drive cage. And I'm not quite sure what you can see, but it's a lovely bit.
Tell us a little bit more about this, because this is not just a low-powered little machine. This is quite beefy, isn't it?
Yeah, the CPU is, it actually comes with 4 different versions. They are 5th generation Intel chips. You can get it with the Xeon, although I have it's an i7 5775C. Now here's the curious lesson about this, and I will put me in over top of it because it might be boring. Not that one, this one. The 5775C, so the 5th generation, we're now in the 7th generation of Intel chips. The actual compute power of their top-end i7s hasn't really gone up a terrible amount, but their power consumption has dropped a lot. So this chip dissipates, I think it's 85 watts. It's a proper 4-core, 8-thread desktop chip. The current, the 6770, has comparable compute power, hasn't really changed, but it only dissipates 45 watts for the desktop part. So in reality, we've gone sort of a couple of years of Intel time, and I think the 7000 series chips now have a little more compute power, but you spend a terrible lot more money these days for lower power consumption, but not that much more compute power. The other thing is most of these little embedded systems don't have discrete graphics. This one has, it can have the latest generation of NVIDIA card in it. This has a GTX.
And how many video outputs does this one have?
It has 3 from the NVIDIA card and 3 more from the Intel Iris 520 stuff. So it's got Intel's top-of-the-line embedded video as well as the NVIDIA card, because the target market is digital signage. Digital signage with bunches of animation. Think McDonald's, where you have all these.
Oh, I'm starving in here. Why did you have to say that?
Or airports. Airports is the other use case, and everything about it is duplicative. It's got the little card cage supports 4 SATA drives, plus it's got 2 mini PCIe slots, plus 2 little mini SATA slots, plus an M2 slot. So there's a lot of I/O there, a lot of ability. And one of the things I'm thinking of doing, in fact, I'll show you this. Dave Michaels and I were talking about new computers a couple of months back, and he desperately wanted one that had USB 3C, which this does not have. But it does have this thing they have on the front here. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see it or not. This little module that has some USB connectors on it, this is what they call a face module, and it is common to all of their little embedded computers, and it can be swapped out. And you can get it with serial interfaces or USB 2 or USB 3, or what I am thinking of doing is getting a blank one and getting a USB 3C mini PCIe adapter, and then putting a USB 3C port on the front, which would be to charge or to interface to my phones and tablets.
74 watts. Good grief. That's
Yeah.
quite scary.
Yeah.
What's it doing? I mean, is it running video at the moment? Multiple
Yeah,
video streams?
Yeah, it's running the Hangout at full screen, which I never do for VUCs because my old computer wouldn't do that. And it's running vMix video production software, which is a heavy load, and it's running audio mixing software, Endwire and Bria.
But in terms of active media streams, it's the Hangout and
vMix. vMix is consuming, right now the system's running at 42% of CPU usage. vMix is consuming about half of that, and the Hangout the other half.
Okay.
And I'm seeing you, and your video looks great.
But mine isn't. I see.
No.
So does this mean the end of the dreaded Cylon?
I think so. I think so, because I associate that with Chrome struggling to maintain the audio path when the CPU was over 80%. So I think
it's cool. So literally, it is cool. What's the cost of one of those? Full normal price.
It depends. Normal price is going to be around $1,500.
I know that they also do IoT gateways as well. That's interesting.
Yeah, they make lesser ones. You know, you've had the Fit PC, and I still have one of those, and they're pretty little boxes. This is in that vein.
So the thing that for me, I mean, I understand that this is how it works, so it's kind of necessary, but it doesn't. It's in no way sealed against dust. I mean, the huge plus for me about the Fit PCs is that they were a sealed unit, and they got their cooling by basically bolting the CPU on and using the entire case as a heatsink.
Right. And these guys, this does this as well, but is not as well sealed, and it has so much more I/O, and all of those ports represent lack of seal, right?
Yeah.
So you have problems. They're the one. If you wanted, they have one they call Intense PC, which are sealed like the Fit PC, but also can be had with i7s. The only thing is, in order to be that form factor and that design, they use laptop CPUs.
Right. Exactly.
Which means they're not much more powerful. They're not as powerful.
Yeah, no, I mean, but as a bonus point for those that sealed architecture, I took the Fit PC I bought a very long time ago out to Burning Man twice, and actually, there's no other device that I've taken out to Burning Man that hasn't died. Or it's shown some serious depredation by being out there, and this the Fit PC came back just as happy as it went out there, and I think that's a tribute to it did, like, there were a few days when it had to be hung by its Ethernet connector. Otherwise, it couldn't get enough updraft off it. Any other orientation, it couldn't get the updraft. If you put it on the table, it wasn't quite getting the airflow it needed. But if you hung it halfway down the tent in free air, it was happy and in the shade. So
yeah. Well, I think the ports are a problem, clearly, with respect to dust, but the way the case works, it's got a little foot on the bottom of it, so it's like 1.5 inches up off the table, and as long as you stand it up vertically, it's got the convection action going, and it does a nice job. It's breathtakingly silent, which I'm all in favor of. And so my wife wants a new computer, or needs a new computer as well, but she thinks this is far too industrial looking for her environ over there. So she is probably going to end up with the top of the line Intel NUC, which is smaller.
NUC, is it NUC or nuke?
It can't be nuke. They're not that powerful. It's smaller, but they have the i6770T processor. It's a laptop processor and Intel embedded graphics, and so they're capable, but they're not as capable. The big problem I have is, one, I think one M2 slot. That's it. So in terms of storage, it's very constrained, internal storage-wise.
So presumably you've got an SSD in there as well, so you literally have no moving parts.
Yeah, it has a Samsung SSD in there, and I'm going to add a few other things in the end. But yeah, the Skull Canyon NUC is quite a capable computer. I like that as well, but only 2 video outs and limited interfacing and expansion capability. So,
and you know what?
And by the time
sorry, I was going to tell you what I'm running here very, very quickly. I have got an old Dell. No, I can't remember what it is, but it's an old thing. I paid 40 quid for it. It's got twin video cards in it. So I've got 2 really big monitors. I'm running Ubuntu, latest version of Ubuntu on it, and it really screams. So it's. I think I get a prize for the cheapest desktop PC.
Oh, well. Kathleen, can Kathleen beat that?
Kathleen, can you beat my £40 Dell?
Now what we're asking is, this is kind of like the conversation that we had on Wednesday, isn't it, Kathleen? Is what's your working environment? Yeah.
It depends on where I'm limited to, because we have a museum of old servers and parts and pieces that I'm sure I could sort of repurpose. Yeah, you might have me beat for active machines. Although I had a Pentium. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what specific one it was, but I have what I call old man somewhere, and he's still chugging away. And I actually installed FreeSWITCH on him once.
Old man.
I love when you said old man, and for some reason James hit his microphone and suddenly appeared in the focus. I want to welcome our favorite Scotsman, Corrado, with us.
Good evening.
He's probably tired of hearing that joke.
Italian Glaswegian.
Yeah, no, I'm from Perth.
And Eric.
I'm Norwegian.
Eric Klein, it's been ages. Let's make sure we can hear you.
Eric. We can't hear Eric.
Not yet. He unmuted, but we have an audio.
Looks like
Plus, he's hiding out, too, in the safe house there.
Yeah, Eric's had his haircut as well.
You're obsessed with hair, James. Why is this?
Really, James, give it a rest.
It's always the
Eric,
same.
we have to hear from you, because he just wrote an article about the congressional thing, and that's an interesting topic. And I'm sure Tim would love to chime in on that too. Has anybody seen the GoFundMe project?
$70,000 they've accumulated to get the browsing history
at least.
Yeah, it was 70,000 this morning. So
for what? Explain.
Now they just passed a law that says that ISPs can sell your browsing history.
Hello.
And
is that Eric?
And so, yeah.
I mean, reboot. Yeah, you reboot.
Eric,
Michael,
you're way off mic. So it means that you're probably not talking into the mic that you think you're on.
Yeah, finish your story, Michael, because it's really...
Yeah, keep testing, Eric, until we can get you. Go ahead, Michael.
So the Congress just passed this law which repealed an FCC order that actually wasn't in effect yet, or was only just about to go into effect. That repealed an order that said that ISPs cannot sell your browsing history. So the presumption is that poor ISPs, they don't make enough money. It's so hard to be in that business. They're a lot like mobile operators in that regard. But what they have is all this metadata about their customers, and so they're supposed to be able to conceptually now sell this. And so somebody put up a GoFundMe page. It was actually an actor put up a GoFundMe page.
And we have you.
And
okay, continue.
he's raised $70,000 as of, I think it was last evening, to buy the browsing histories of all of the members of Congress and the White House, and
It's
because
not
we
that
want to
easy.
see what they're doing. And last night, Stephen Colbert on the Late Show did a little spoof where, you know, if it's okay to do this stuff, they mocked up a bunch of, you know, things that Congress people look at, and they used it as a funny segment, which was quite good.
And here's the GoFundMe thing.
Oh, 191,000 now. That's good. Yeah, because it's like, okay, we want to know what you guys do.
So that's a pretty good idea. Let's try to get Eric into focus here. And Eric, by the way, you could use a little bit more light. I hate to keep demanding demands, but if you can.
So the question for you guys is, can you recommend me to a VPN provider that's not in the continental U.S.?
Oh, yeah, well, that's another.
They don't help as much as you'd like.
That's true. That's true.
Eric,
I got into a whole argument with people yesterday about VPNs don't hide everything because your ISP needs a certain minimal amount of metadata to work at all.
Right.
Yeah, but they do hide more than enough so that you're pretty much okay.
The problem with Ytopia, Randy, is Ytopia doesn't support persistent VPN connections from routers that are not the ones you buy from them.
Oh, yeah, they do. I've been using it for years. But let's put that aside for a moment, because I don't know how much time Eric has, but I grabbed him for this reason because he just published this thing. I don't even know what this is. It's just an article, right, Eric? Not a book?
It's actually a reprint of an article. If you click down it where it says full story, the Electronic Freedom Federation just put this out earlier today. Verizon has already announced that they're going to be putting spyware onto all of their Android phones to know what apps you're using and what you've installed, so they can then start customizing what messaging they want to give to you.
And if you notice when you read the article, they reserve the right to change the behavior of other apps, not just their own app.
Wow.
Yes.
So they'll insert it into everything.
Basically, there are multiple problems with what has been done. The option of knowing who you are and what you're doing and how they can resell this is bad enough. The fact that they now reserve the right to change advertising and behavior and searches based on their opinion about what you want to see is inherent to all of this across any ISP.
I don't know if any of you remember what that was. Was it Netlink? No, what's the name of the router people who did that? We had a filter, and they went every 20 minutes. It flashed into one of their pages or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
I can't remember the exact story. I'm not saying it.
I would love, you know, clearly there's going to be a market for, you know, efforts to circumvent all of this, and whether it's VPN providers or other kind of cloaking, it's going to be a new business.
Yeah, no, and this is what's so depressing, is it won't be a new business. It'll be an option that you tick on your Comcast subscription that costs you an extra $20.
That's a good point. They may be looking.
Which doesn't mean that they're not going to collect it anyway.
Right. They'll collect it anyway, but they'll sell it for more because you're rich and foolish. Right? It's just like the whole thing is depressing. I mean, the only and simultaneously with this, some clowns from now. I'm gonna have to actually I better not say where I think they're from because I'll get it wrong.
No, go on.
No, I can't remember where they're from, but I'm pretty sure it was Telefonica actually. Have published an RFC for an interceptable version of TLS, so that middle boxes can insert themselves into the traffic securely. This is like, guys, you just don't get it, do you? You're like you're all completely. So anyway, there hasn't been. Oddly, the TLS community hasn't received this very well.
And I thought that IETF actually made mention of that in the proceedings in Chicago yesterday. Or it was certainly in someone's Twitter stream in any case. That they had been invited to be involved in that and they declined.
On the subject of IETF, Michael, you mentioned earlier that there was a really good video presentation about mobile. Can you find a link to that and drop that in the IRC?
And I can. It was a gentleman from Ericsson who was discussing the history of encryption over mobile, and he started at AMPS and then worked up to the current day.
Well, starting in recent times then. Funny thing you should mention that, but the schedule for the Chalk Valley History Festival came out yesterday, and I was looking through that. Gave me an idea for a historic talk that I could give, and talking about the origin of GSM and how nobody knows where it actually started because it was secret. But I think we're approaching the 25-year point that everything will become unclassified. So I want to give a talk about the origin of GSM, the bits that nobody really knows about, and illustrate it with hardware, which will come from the Royal Signals Museum.
What a clue! So there's the backstory for those who don't know it for GSM and the fact that it was encrypted. Which was an immensely political act when it was launched. The American government in particular, and to a lesser extent the British government, were rabidly opposed to the idea that that it should be encrypted, and that it should have any encryption in it at all. And the Germans, bless their cotton socks, said, you know, we have a what is it, 600-mile land border with an enemy, i.e. the other half of Germany at the time, and we'd quite like encrypted communication, quite like our population to have encrypted communications. Thank you very much. So there was a negotiation about that, and they, admittedly, it turned out later that the cipher chosen wasn't super strong, but it was actually, you know, for the day it was passable. But then the cipher was held as a secret, and wasn't. It was held under. It was patented and held as a secret thing. And somebody, I understand, leaked it and put it into the public domain. At which point it was like everybody's NDAs were invalidated because the information was already in the public domain, and so the was it A0 cipher got out.
A1, I think.
A1 it was. Got out and became public knowledge, which actually circles us back to Osmocom, because without that it wouldn't be possible to do open source GSM telephony. So yes, fun. I would almost travel down to the Chalk Valley to see your talk, James, and heckle.
I would like that. I would like that immensely, and I have to say it would not just be me. There will be other members of the team who are actually there.
Though I suspect that my electric car won't make it to the Chalk Valley, so we'll have to come by some other means of transport.
Absolutely not. No, you have no chance getting down here.
Well, I'd probably get close. Let me have a look. I shall research this now. Back in a bit.
Right.
So
Anyway.
I put the link in IRC as you suggested, and
So look.
and it was lunchtime. It was part of their lunchtime speaker series, and he did a good job.
Meteco. Oh God, Meteco. That's God, what's his name? Italian chap, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. How much we love Lorenzo when he comes on. Now he has an awful lot of hair, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He has beautiful hair to put us all to shame. Anyway, why are we talking about hair again?
Why is hair such a topic? I mean,
No, it's just that when we do the warm up, every time Kathleen comes on, we have to do the 30-second update on Kathleen's hairstyle and the changes.
You do want the lovely lady to come on from time to time, don't you, James? I mean, we should perhaps let this go.
I'm bemused, James. I thought the whole point about video calls is that, like, you could see people, and therefore you didn't have to ask them anything about their appearance because you could use your eyes. It seems,
Exactly.
in fact, this is about the only, I mean, this is the good thing about video calling, is that you can see what kind of mood somebody's in or whatever. So I'm puzzled
Yeah, in
about
your case,
obsession with them.
yeah, East
hair.
European workman mode, I think.
I'm not sure how to take that. Badly, I think. Although, yes, never mind.
Well, with your posts about German apartments and stuff, it's going with the local style, I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, I went native long ago.
Yes.
Native to where, though?
Well, Israel, shaving the head is a very common thing.
Right. But you've still got your eyebrows. I mean, and their eyebrows are not. Look at that! Wow, they're a
My
work of
expressive
art.
eyebrows. Yes.
Yeah.
And depending, I actually have the little bit back here for the Jean-Luc Picard look once it gets the right color.
Absolutely.
So coming back off the hair topic briefly.
Yes.
What or tonic even. What do we think that the solution to this this ISP invasion is? I mean, it's clear in the UK what the solution is, which is that you simply go to an ISP who doesn't do this, and you find an ISP who offers the service without it. But presumably in the US, the monopoly situation is such that you don't have that option.
Well, there was an interesting article I just read. Let me find it again. Where basically all of the Trump supporters are suddenly deciding that this is a problem because suddenly you realize that there is no competition. So if you're going to go with the fair market, if there is a legitimate reason to not offer it, then companies will stop offering it and advertise the fact that we don't take your data. Competition. And this is really a big problem right now.
It's always puzzled me how little competition there is in the US. I mean, since that it's supposed to be the home of the free market, but in practice, like there are no options about ISP.
But the whole thing about capitalism, right, is that you protect your market position. So you do whatever you can to establish a monopoly or an oligopoly or something like that, right? So that's the competitive reality, is that you want to sort of squash any competitive reality.
Yeah.
Right.
And we know something about it. No, James. OpenReach.
Okay, I don't have IRC set up on this machine for here, so I just put it into the Hangouts chat window, the link.
I'll put it in the IRC as well.
I'm surprised you're not using Riot, which is the new client for what's it? Matrix. That's the one. Yeah.
We haven't had Matthew on for ages. How is
him on.
Mr. Superbrain?
And in fact, because all of a sudden there's a huge massing of feature updates for all of these kind of secure messaging clients. So Signal's updated itself, Telegram's updated.
Yes, but your government's trying to do away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not going to succeed.
Why? They've got Trump pushing for the same thing.
So's the EU now.
But it's not going to happen. I mean,
yeah, our only hope, Corrado, our only hope is Scotland, and there's a vote. The independent vote has been talked about again. Let's get that happening.
It will be just a little patch of safety that you can everyone connect to.
Yeah, I think that should happen.
So actually, that's why don't we start a VPN based in Iceland, and we can run services out from there. Now, back to the question about what VPN. I had quite good experience with some guys called CryptoStorm. They're a bit manic, but the results were pretty good. So
CryptoStorm. I'll tell you what, for general purpose stuff, I'm just using the free Opera VPN. Which is now a standard feature with the Opera browser, but you can also get a kind of like a mini VPN client.
Wait, who bought Opera?
I don't know who did buy it.
Somebody very, very dodgy.
What, GCHQ?
Let me see who owns them these days. It's not who you think at all.
Well, their stuff. I've used Opera for years, and
yes, but they got bought.
Yes, but didn't they buy themselves back
No.
or something? Wait, doesn't anybody have Alexa? Who owns Opera? Of course, that'd be
Alexa, who owns Opera?
Yeah, well, that's going to be this difficult context for Alexa, though. Opera is a art form with singing.
She did answer.
Yeah, but it's going to be the Metropolitan Opera.
Okay,
Oprah,
Google.
Oprah Winfrey.
Who bought the
Also-
web browser Opera?
According to FreeSWITCH, the Chinese consortium has bought the Opera internet browser for $600 million. Its Norwegian developer said Monday, after a public share offer for the company failed.
So there, Chinese have got it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a firm called-
My point exactly.
Well, that was last July.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So all your browser data, James, has been in China for the last year nearly.
Well, that's okay. Chinese guys, they're all my friends anyway.
Well, I just, I
have to say that.
think selecting a VPN that's owned by a Chinese company might be
Problematic.
counterproductive,
Yeah, but it's
depending
still-
on what it is you're trying to
But the
achieve.
code is still programmed and controlled this week by the Norwegians. So yeah, what we need is
You're such an optimist.
it's a nice Swiss solution. And that was a segue for Maxim, and I noticed he's dropped off. ZipDX. That's very boring, isn't it?
You have
So,
to go.
Our friends at Wire are Swiss registered,
Yes.
Berlin tech. So
Yeah,
maybe
everything
that's
about
the
it is very Berlin, apart from the fact it's registered in Switzerland.
Well, the money's Skype money originally.
Yeah, 600 million.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Skype can't talk, aren't they? Because Skype, once upon a time, used to be reasonably secure until Microsoft got their hands in it. Now everybody listens to.
So interesting. I suspect this is now actually a profit center for a lot of messaging apps. Is selling your data to anyone who chooses to listen to it, governments included.
Yeah. Well, there's a backstory to that, because we actually worked Skype in as a secure-ish means of communication for gangsters into one of the earlier Michael Dobbs books. And of course, then, directly after that was written, Microsoft bought them, and it became one of the most insecure communication mediums going. So, so people who read that book today will think, what the hell are they on?
Yeah.
Just-
Context.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's depressing how much things change, isn't it?
It's almost as good as Alan B. Johnson's second novel, which is a great segue into something that Uli Johansson posted this morning. I don't know whether you saw that.
What, his hat?
No.
Hat of the day.
Piece about a new RFC that's out about opportunistic encryption. And one of the authors of that RFC is none other than our very own SIPSmith, our favorite SIPSmith, Alan B. Johnson.
Yeah. Alan's opportunistic encryption. Yeah, and I had a long drunken conversation with him on the Wire rooftop about that.
When?
Last Camellia World, I guess.
Right.
You're
So-
only a month and a half away.
Yeah, so it was a year.
So sadly, you didn't make it to Mobile World Congress and get to your copy of his new book. And by the way, as you're here, Eric, do you know that I think you're in here? There are three Israeli gentlemen who turn up in a restaurant in Taiwan for absolutely no reason at all. They add nothing to the story, but they just turn up, and one of them's you, Eric.
Interesting. I've never been to, Taiwan? Never been. Okay.
No, no. Well, I turn up on a transatlantic airliner in this book.
Well, does the hero have trouble getting through customs because he's behind you?
Well, no, apparently he gets very bored. He has to sit next to me and learn all about SIM cards and things.
Actually, James, I was thinking about you recently with all of this new warnings about electronics on flights.
Really?
So if the UK and the US governments are now restricting what you can carry on flights.
Yes, but only from dodgy parts of the world, which most of which are sort of encircling where you live, really.
How soon do you really expect this to not follow the scanners and other rules like the shoe bomb or the underwear bomb or other things to get every airport everywhere, and suddenly you need to have, wait, my laptop didn't arrive insurance?
Oh, so I mean, honestly, there's a business in renting Chromebooks at the airport.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This plays right into Google's hands for Chromebooks and Chrome-based applications, isn't it?
I think it does, actually.
Actually, it also works fairly well for some of the Microsoft products with their new Microsoft Cloud things, because a lot of us are still tied to Office, and Google Docs just royally sucks.
Well, we quite like Google Docs over here.
If they could ever get Google Sheets to have that enlarge feature that doesn't require enlarging every tab on my browser, so I can actually see the 10-point font, it would really be nice.
Well,
Excel
how about
does that
opening-
really well.
Well,
Open the window and change the font.
No, it does it for the entire browser. So if you have a tab open for a sheet, you can't avoid it because you have to enlarge, zoom all of your browser. Every sheet on the browser then gets enlarged to 200%.
Is that right?
That doesn't sound quite right. There is a way of doing it, because
I would be thrilled if you could find it. I've gone through Google support for 2 months now, and every forum, and the answer is, it's a feature.
Right. Well, I'll find out for you tomorrow. I will ask my favorite helicopter test pilot when I'm having my full English fry breakfast at the village hall here in lovely Bower Chalk, in the middle of the Chalk Valley. And I'll get the answer for you, because he is my local authority. Anyway, changing the subject yet again rapidly. Back to Berlin. Berlin is where the wonderful gentlemen from Security Research Labs hang out. Now, they're the guys who rather famously have been demonstrating all kinds of mobile network hacks recently, or over the last 2 years, 3 years. And they rather famously they hacked an Australian government minister's mobile phone from Berlin for a documentary program on Australian TV, just to show how easy it was to do. And they brought out this marvelous little app called FreeSWITCH. It's available for Android handsets. It doesn't work on all of them because the radio chipsets are kind of a little bit different, but most of the popular ones it does. And what FreeSWITCH does is it produces an assessment of how vulnerable your mobile network operator is to being attacked. And you get a nice little, I'd show a screen, but I can't, I've got it on paper here in front of me. But it tells you how good your network is and how easy it would be to break into it. And needless to say, I tested it immediately on my favorite multi-IMSI multi-profile SIM, and was quite pleasantly surprised to find out that it scored incredibly highly, unlike O2 here in UK, which scored very badly. So anyway, there's something to look at. FreeSWITCH. Download it now, Tim. You'll have hours of fun.
So isn't that dependent on what baseband chipset you're using?
It is. Well,
I think I may know some of the people involved. Actually.
Yeah, the capabilities of FreeSWITCH are, and generally Intel or Qualcomm chipsets are fully supported. If you've got a Chinese thing, you can forget it.
I'm looking at their site. This app requires rooted device with Qualcomm chipset.
Yeah, and Intel as well. They think they support as well.
Not on their page.
Oh,
According
right.
to
Well, perhaps it's
only
just Qualcomm. But I've got it on an LG, well, I think a Nexus, or is it a Sony handset, and it works remarkably well. And the other really useful thing you can do is you can use it to drop PCAP files with all the signaling, so all the GSM signaling, which is really useful if you want to kind of debug something like an Eno-B small cell. Anyway, there's a random subject for you.
This is the kind of thing you talk about in bars in Berlin, James.
No, he talks about it on aircraft when with a captive audience, apparently.
Thank you for that.
With pink
I'm
dress.
blaming Alan for that.
No, I was very disappointed. He went to all the trouble of inserting my character in there, but then I didn't do anything that in the story, and it was all about mobile security, and it was just, disappointing.
Well, yes.
And I was already working up lines about who should play me in the Hollywood version, the film version of the novel.
You have to be careful about that sort of stuff. Actually, there's who was it? I think it was Ian Fleming had a book who had a character. One of his early books had a character in it called Klein the Swine, and one of his ex colleagues, whose name was Klein, sued him. And actually won substantial damages, enough that he bought himself retired and bought himself a restaurant in Canterbury, which was actually a very nice restaurant. I went to it regularly. But yeah, no. So you have to be a bit careful about who you. And there was no. I mean, there wasn't an implication that it was him. It just was the name was enough for him to win this court case.
What an odd judicial system you folks have over there.
Oh, don't we just?
Yeah.
Well,
someone over here, a couple of years ago, a woman wrote a blog post about a restaurant that she went to. She told the whole story of what happened to her. She was treated, if you take her story literally, the way the service was, and she was just treated very unfairly, very poorly. And she was fined because the blog post was entitled such and such restaurant to avoid at all costs. And that lawsuit was won by the restaurant, to the dismay of anybody who cares about free speech, by the way.
Yeah. That is a bit sad.
I think there have been a number of cases as well where someone has left a bad Yelp review and had either an attempted lawsuit or actually had to go to court for it. The one that comes to mind is a woman who hired a lawyer after an accident, and the lawyers didn't do a very good job with her, and I guess tried to sue her after she left them a bad Yelp review. So.
Yeah.
Well, there's a moral there, isn't there? What a story. Be careful. Just because you're leaving comments on a social media type platform doesn't mean that you can't be sued for the content.
Well, yes, indeed. That's a very
and that's why we must all be very nice to everybody else, mustn't we?
That's a hot topic in Twitter sphere at the moment.
Yeah.
And that combined with the US lack of privacy thing means that you can probably be tracked down quite easily.
But, thinking about that and getting back, this was kind of one of our principal topics. Funny how we don't have a topic, we don't have guests, and then we get to more people and more topics. That's great. But the other thing is that there's just so much that these companies already know. And for example, if any of you have Netflix or Hulu or any of these things, they obviously know exactly what you watch, when you watch it, how many times you've watched it, and so on. I don't know whether they sell or do anything with it, but the fact is that they definitely, absolutely have that because you're on their servers and they can do whatever they want. There's so many other things that we do online that are just totally transparent. So that's that deal that we make every day. And because of natural human fatigue, I mean, who reads these TOSs anymore, right?
Yeah.
For one thing. So, you know, we only have ourselves to blame. And I could just imagine all of the data that I've left, plus all the stuff that you're publishing on the internet, right? I just was approached 3 times. I got 3 emails, one a week, from someone who was promoting somebody who makes t-shirts. They go, yeah, we can help you with your merchandising, blah, blah, blah. I ignored the first one. Second one, somebody's posting a cartoon. I'll put that up. That must be Eric.
Yes. It seems appropriate right now.
It's a good one. She wrote me a second time, said, I don't know, sorry to bother you. I don't know if you got my first email. You know, if you answer them, you figure that they're going to put you on the list. So after the third one, I went on Twitter and said, would such and such, giving her email address and tweeting to the company who has an account, would you mind, you know, not harvesting emails on the internet and doing cold calls via email? Because after the third time, it was pretty obvious that I'm not interested. And this is called spam. It's UBE, and I don't want it. And they kind of faltered.
Lately, there's been a big push. I'm getting advertisements to New York Hard Hat conference mailing lists, and 8 or 9 conferences. Suddenly, it's like 4 times a week I'm getting the same email asking if I want these mailing lists. It's like, where the heck did you come up with that I might be interested in surgical devices, hard hats, or other things? It's like just randomly selecting emails.
Yeah, my wife told me today that she got an email today saying, thank you for joining such and such. It was a major newspaper here in France, saying thank you for signing up for blah, blah, blah. And she claims she did not sign up. And unlike me, she doesn't sign up for 50,000 things.
Okay.
I don't know about you guys, everybody, Kathleen and Corrado and Andy and everybody, but when you try beta stuff, right? And then like 6 months later, it's like somebody writes you going, here's the latest news on such and such. I don't even remember what this thing does, let alone who you are or when I signed up. But chances are I probably did sign up for the beta.
I have a trick up my sleeve. If you have a Google email account, you can give an email account to each of one of your contacts, adding a plus something at the end of your name, of your moniker, and you will know who is selling your email account.
Right.
Yeah, either that or embed it as your middle name when you create an email address or something. It works really nice that way.
Yeah, but you can use the same email account. It's the same email account with your name, surname, or whatever you want,
right,
plus any tag you add. It will come into your same email address, your same mailbox, but is tagged with that tag, and you recognize who's selling your name. Another note on the details, not just Netflix or Amazon or anything else, but even interactive TV services like Virgin Media or BT, anything that with a set-top box that is connected back to the internet anyway, is feeding back your viewing habits to the provider.
That's very true. First of all, back to the plus thing. Yeah, that's an old quirk of email, or maybe it was by design. I don't know.
It's by design on Google.
But it's a
Google
good, well, I mean,
design.
but I mean, you can do that with any email as far as I know. That's been going on for years. I have a thing called sneak email, which you can create infinite accounts. And the advantage of that one is you can then turn them off. You can either turn them down to gray lists, which avoids almost all spam, but the stuff that's persistent, like people actually writing you from these lists, you can then just turn it off, and then it just responds that there's nobody.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of thing with a block of 100,000 UK mobile numbers, which all map to the same place.
So
that's really useful.
As Tim was able to bring in Burning Man, you were able to bring that old chestnut in.
Well, let's change the subject.
That you've mentioned 10 or 20 times.
Let's talk about something completely different and new. Let's talk about Amazon Echo and things you can do with that. The spy in the house, because the Amazon Echo is on all the time, monitoring all your.
Don't.
Well, it's your watch, it's your television, it's your Amazon, it's your cell phone.
Oh, right. Samsung
Okay, Google.
Watch telling me that I'm more active. Yeah, exactly.
Just try and do an inventory of all the things that have microphones in your home. Just try. There's a lot.
It's really useful. I've got a thing now. I've got an if this then that thing set up so that when somebody plays music on the Amazon Dot in the kitchen, it writes what it's playing to Google's sheet and then sends me a push notification. And if I want to know who it is, I just then go to the Alexa app and then I play back the audio, which of course is stored in Alexa. I can hear who it is ask for that ridiculously obscene piece of music.
Alexa,
I feel an attack on James's kitchen coming on.
He does it himself often enough.
Yeah.
Alexa stores everything, and they can get a subpoena and take it out as part of a police investigation and take everything that was ever said in front of it for weeks and listen to it and use it.
Wasn't that a recent trial though, where they couldn't get it?
They got it actually.
They got it.
Amazon resisted initially and then caved in because it was a murder.
They were just copying it.
Anyway, as I'm not a criminal, my activities here are focused purely on fun. And when Andy and I were in Barcelona, I decided that I would play some music early in the morning to my family. Because we're in Barcelona, I thought I'd play Barcelona by Freddie Mercury, followed by Daddy Cool, to see whether they would realise who was putting it on. But anyway.
But none of them know. They were all asleep, were they?
No, I turned it up really, really, really loud, so they were not asleep by the time I came, I'll tell you. Our kitchen entertainment system is reasonably heavy duty.
Have you had your Alexa privileges revoked yet then, James?
No, well, I had to revoke some Alexa privileges because within 30 seconds of me putting it on, my 17-year-old son had managed to order an Microsoft Xbox game via Alexa. The default is you can order things and it's turned on.
But isn't that wonderful? And I've seen a standard thing now happens when you go to visit someone's house. You sort of walk in the front door and you go, Alexa, order me 1,000,000 bags of tea. Or something like that, you know, and she answers back in a way it's done. Hang on.
Self-inflicted.
Dangerous demos.
Yes, yeah. You have to learn the Stacey Higginbotham thing of never saying her name.
Yeah, she must not be mentioned. Yeah.
Well,
my problem is my niece's name actually is Alexa, and she has one of these devices.
But you can change it to the alternative, can't you?
What's
actually, and there's another one, and you actually can program it to be HAL now. You can make it something arbitrary.
Oh, they finally changed that? I had a friend who tried doing that about a month ago, and it wasn't one of the valid options.
Yeah, because I should like it to be HAL.
Well, it's hardly a positive thing, really, being HAL. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but
like only one of them survived. So let's not.
I need to be able to be here in my office and say, Hal, open the pod bay doors and have the garage door go up.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen, don't you? It's going to say, I'm sorry, Michael, I just can't do that.
I can't do that, yes.
Okay, you know what? We have gone over the hour, which...
Oh, have we?
Yeah, well, it's not really a problem, but I thought what would be nice would be to starting with Mr. Andy, who, just a second, we better get this happening here first.
I think it's high time that we heard from those two eminent gentlemen, James Bodie and Andrew Smith.
At any rate, I was going to say that I think it would be great to go through from left to right and see what everybody's last statement is. So it starts with Mr. Andy Smith. Here's my order, just so that you'll all know. It's Andy, Corrado, Eric, James, Kathleen, Michael, Tim, and myself.
So
Andy?
that would be alphabetical apart from you at the end then. What last comments am I making? I've not been here for most of it, I'm afraid. I've been dealing with a dishwasher bloke.
Tell us about it. Oh, that was the truck that drove up?
Yeah, it was the guy who drove up. He was actually here to fix our dishwasher. So it just cost me a lot of money for a man to change a reed.
And what does she think of it?
Ha ha ha. Yes.
Your dishwasher. Yeah, all right, never mind. Yeah,
A reed switch. With all the electronics and everything in a dishwasher, it was a reed switch that had gone wrong.
Reed switch is the thing with mercury in it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a bimetal switch that is magnetically operated.
Okay. Low tech.
Very low tech, very old engineering. Yet that was what had gone wrong in my ultra modern dishwasher. So there we go. Anyway, so I haven't been here, so I haven't been party to the conversation, so I don't know what to say, so I shan't say anything else.
All right, we're going to move on to Corrado then.
Yes. If you want to have fun and you have Virgin Media at home or an LG TV, there are apps you can download for Android phones that allow you to control your Virgin Media set-top box or TV from your phone. So you can change channels remotely while people is watching. That.
All right, we've got Eric's article here. Maybe you could tell us a little about that, Eric.
Okay, I got asked. I'm part of. You notice that the posts that I got brought on here are from a community called PeerList, which is a kind of LinkedIn for security people, where we share news stories, tips, and things of that nature. They put out free security books to help people understand what's going on. And when they put up the second book table of contents that they were looking for authors, I was stupid enough to say, wait, there's no telecom in this. So they said, okay, so write one. So I wrote chapter 9 in this book. I put the link into Hangouts so we can share it. You can get it for free off of the website from PeerList, or I think it's 99 cents on Amazon, which all gets donated to some charity.
And that, Eric, is exactly why you turned up in a restaurant in Taipei.
Apparently.
Yeah, because you're famous.
Infamous.
There you go.
Infamous. There's a slight difference.
Yeah.
All right, and that leads us to Mr. James Bowdy.
Oh, well, it's a bit of a visual one here. We had a board meeting earlier this week, and I was somewhat taken aback because Mr. Andrew Smith produced a present for me, which is this T-shirt. Where are we? There we are. Can you read that? It's an engineer's T-shirt. If I move it up a bit, you can probably see what it says. Oh, I can't. Can you see that? Probably
not very clearly.
Yes. Oh, I do. I'm very clear.
Right. It's clearly not getting as far as Taipei.
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, it's Taipei. No, it's perfectly clear.
Okay, so there we are. That's my very visual end piece. But as there's only one person, and it's Robert Daly from A2 Infotech on ZipDX right now, we could probably get away with that.
Okay, next over to Kathleen.
Well, I think this call was awesome, and I think maybe people just should keep in mind that the easier life gets, the more complicated it gets. So pay attention.
And have you booked your hotel for Berlin?
I have. I am all ready to go. I have all my flights, all of my hotels.
And did you hear that Mr. David Duffett has booked himself into the wrong hotel? Dum, dum, dum. He's booked.
Which one is that?
He's gone into the Stasi Piano Bar Hotel.
Oh, the one that we usually go to. Kathleen, you could have mentioned that Michael and I were on ClueCon Weekly.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Really?
That would have been a great thing to talk about. Yeah. This past Wednesday, we had special guests, Michael and Randy. It's great. It's fun. A lot of different topics covered. Great conversation. Thank you for joining us again. And head over to YouTube, the FreeSWITCH YouTube, YouTube/FreeSWITCH to
FreeSWITCH YouTube, and it was great, and it's great to have you, Kathleen. We're always happy to have you with us, and it's going to be over to Mr. Michael Graves, who's going to talk about probably his new toy.
Yeah, why not?
Show us the fan.
No, we've done that once.
No, it's been an interesting week. I've just put up this little lower third that is showing the running CPU and power usage, and that's kind of cool. I'll note for our Eric's benefit, this little machine was manufactured in Israel, and it flew here from Haifa, which is it took a long time, just 4 weeks lead time on it, but it's a lovely little computer, and hopefully we won't have robotic audio anymore. So
well, it had to be interviewed by the Secret Service first, right?
If I had it shipped from Haifa, you probably would have gotten it faster. Israeli Post being what it is.
Well, it had to have the.
It came DHL, so but it's a lovely little piece of kit, and it's my first new desktop computer in 5 years. So hey, woohoo!
That is exciting. We're going to move over to Mr. Tim Patton, who's going to manage to mention Burning Man.
I'm not actually. I could if you wanted, but no. So my puzzle. I have a puzzle this week, which is I think I understand it, but basically economics isn't what it used to be. I was looking at the Get Chip site. So the Get Chip, the little $9 Linux machine. I should have one in my hand, but I don't. And I'm looking at that, and they don't have any for sale, but they do have a $16 equivalent device that is less performant. So I'm looking at that and thinking, how does that work? Like, why would anyone buy the $16 device? And the answer is they only would do that if the $9 device isn't available. So I'm kind of wondering about whether I've been suckered into having a device that isn't available much. So anyway, yeah, economics and lost leaders, I think, is my lesson of the week.
That's basic economics. It's called bait and switch.
Yeah, as Kathleen's, well, I don't know. I mean, I think legitimately they've been overwhelmed by the success of the thing. I mean, I think it was originally just a Kickstarter kind of project, and now it's turned into a business, and that changes the economics significantly. But as Kathleen said, I think the answer is pay attention.
Seriously. I'll finish with the fact that I just burned up 3.21 gigabytes of my 50 gig a month allotment, but I have a phone that does nothing but this. So that was the Hangout, 3.25 gigabytes. Oh, by the way, a little shout out to Fastmail, to whom I made a payment, one-time payment for life, email service, blah, 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 membership, no ads. They just canceled it. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. And when I asked how that worked out, as far as how they felt about the fact that they, said that they were going to give, this was a one-time payment, they said, well, if you look at our TOS, it says we can cancel at any time for no reason. So
well, they probably weren't expecting you to live quite so long, Randy.
Well, there is that, James, for the humor aspect, but a lot of people were a little miffed by the fact that even though, okay, I get it, we paid like $15, and that was maybe 6-7 years ago. But the fact is, it was really poorly handled, and I think they're a piece of shit. Fastmail.com. If you are tempted to go with them, I'd skip it. Really, they're not honest.
I'm just going to follow that by saying that running email has got much more difficult than it was. And I
think that would be a great conversation topic to have an hour set aside for.
Right. I take that point completely.
Okay. But my point is that they did a very poor job of doing what they did. That's all. Anyway, good night, everybody. Good day, good morning, goodbye, and we'll see you next week. And hopefully we'll manage to attract just as many great people as we did this week. Because who needs topics or guests? Ciao.